Have you ever wondered why certain moments, small gestures, or even silent gazes can leave a man forever changed? Why, in a quiet instant, something invisible shifts? A subtle, profound awakening that no words can contain. There's a mystery, deep within the male soul, a place where the ordinary doesn't penetrate, where most men keep guarded behind walls, built from years of experience, conditioning, and survival. It's a hidden chamber that only the most authentic gestures or energies can unlock. Carl Jung explained this beautifully. The deepest things in life are not meant to be spoken. They are felt internally, in the silence of the soul. And that is precisely what touches a man's core. The symbolic, the unseen, the resonance that echoes far beyond surface appearances. Because real love, deep love, isn't built on surface, beauty, words, or promises. It's activated when something, as small as a glance, as subtle as an energy, reaches the hidden depths of his being. It's a vibration, a frequency that bypasses his mind and penetrates directly into his unconscious. It's like an internal awakening, an invitation to explore what he's been avoiding or hiding from himself. When someone truly touches his soul, everything inside begins to tremble. Walls that he's carefully constructed to keep others at bay begin to crack. And suddenly, he's face to face with an aspect of himself he's long refused to acknowledge. His vulnerabilities, his unmet needs, his deepest desires. Have you ever experienced that? That feeling when someone enters your space, without trying, without effort, and suddenly everything feels different. The world quiets down, and you sense that in that brief moment, a powerful mirror has been held up to your inner world. You might not even realize what's happening at first. But beneath your conscious awareness, something powerful is stirring. It's an energy that brings out what you've kept hidden, fears, needs, longing, to a place where they can finally be seen and acknowledged. Carl Jung believed that this is the essence of genuine love. It awakens archetypes, symbols, and parts of ourselves we often repress or forget. It's a silent language, an unspoken dialogue between two souls, an exchange of vibrations that reveals our true nature without words. Think about it. Haven't you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt an inexplicable familiarity? As if you knew them from another lifetime? Or perhaps you felt an intense pull just because that person reflected a part of yourself you were too afraid to admit existed. That's the power of connection at the unconscious level. It's not about what's said, it's about what's felt. It's about the invisible signals that go straight to the core of your being, those subtle cues that trigger a deep emotional response, even if your rational mind dismisses it as coincidence. And here's the truth, these moments are rarer than most realize, because society has conditioned men to hide vulnerability behind masks of strength and control. Men are told that showing emotion is a weakness, that a real man must be stoic, unshakable. But beneath that armor lies a tender, yearning heart, that part of him that asks, "Am I truly loved for who I am?" Whenever a woman emanates authenticity, a quiet confidence rooted in self-acceptance, she awakens that longing in him, even if she's not trying to do so. Simply by being herself, by inhabiting her truth, she becomes a mirror to his own hidden truths, his silent wounds, his unspoken desires. This is the magic of what Jung called the archetype, the universal symbol that resides in every human soul. When a man encounters a woman who embodies an aspect of that archetype, whether it's the mother, the muse, the maiden, or the wise woman, something inside him shifts. It's not about physical beauty alone, it's about the deeper resonance, an echo of something ancient and vital in his subconscious. And often, he doesn't even realize what's happened immediately. He might feel stirred, restless, vulnerable, yet he'll try to dismiss it, rationalize it away, or distance himself. But inside, a quiet awakening begins. A part of him recognizes, this person just touched something I've been avoiding for years. Maybe it was a simple glance that lingered longer than expected. Perhaps a moment of stillness that felt charged with meaning. Or an overall energy, calm, grounded, authentic, that disrupted his mental defenses. These are the signals. that something in his inner world has been activated, an invitation to confront himself, to question his emotional walls, to acknowledge his unspoken needs. And here's the paradox: most men won't immediately admit that they've been touched or that they're being moved. They'll often pull away, become more analytical, seek comfort in familiarity. Because the encounter has triggered conflicting feelings, they're faced with parts of themselves they've long suppressed, and it can be overwhelming. But deep down, a part of him knows. Those silent signals are messages from his soul, guiding him toward healing, toward truth, toward a love rooted in authenticity rather than illusion. When a woman lives her truth, when she vibrates from a place of genuine self-love and confidence, her energy speaks louder than words. And even if she's unaware of it, she becomes a symbol, embodying qualities that awaken the dormant parts of his soul. She might not chase, persuade, or demand. She simply becomes inhabiting her essence fully. That authenticity, so rare, so disruptive, shakes his core because it cannot be controlled, predicted, or confined. It's in that vulnerability, the willingness to be seen without mask, that the real connection begins to form. Because love, at its deepest level, is not about possession or control. It's about giving someone space to be who they truly are, even if that means handing over your own walls. And that's when the magic happens. The moment you realize that love, in its purest form, isn't about what you get, but about what you're willing to reveal and what someone else is willing to reflect back to you. If this resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There is an invisible language that exists beyond words, a language spoken by the soul, understood through symbols, energies, and subtle cues. It's what Jung described as the collective unconscious, an ancient shared map encoded within all of us, guiding us toward recognition, healing, and transformation. When a man encounters a woman who embodies this silent language, something in him awakens. Not at the surface level, but at the core of his being. It's like hearing a distant melody that triggers memories buried deep within. A song your soul recognizes, even if your mind remains unaware. This melody is delivered through symbols, simple gestures, glances, or even a presence that radiates authenticity. She is not consciously trying to awaken him. She simply exists, whole, grounded, true to herself. And in her being, she becomes a living symbol, an archetype that invites him to access parts of himself he's long ignored. Think of it this way. In ancient times, symbols like the tree, the moon, or the river carried profound meaning, signs of growth, transformation, and flow. Today, in our modern relationships, those symbols are often silent, embedded in behaviors and energies that go unnoticed. Yet their power remains. When a woman embodies her authenticity, she acts as a mirror, reflecting qualities he has repressed or forgotten. The confidence of her presence whispers, "You can be vulnerable, you can be real." Without trying, she nudges his soul toward facing its shadows, those parts of himself he avoids, day after day. In that subtlety, he recognizes something familiar, the echo of an inner truth he's been seeking, but did not yet know how to name. It could be a quiet stillness, a grounded energy, or a rare calmness that radiates from her. These are the signals encoded in her energy. And here's where it becomes even more profound. These signals don't demand attention or explanation. They work on the level of resonance, of vibrations. Like tuning forks aligned in harmony, they bring forth inner responses that surprise even him. Sometimes he might feel restless, agitated, or even distant. That's often the first sign. The internal resistance to what his unconscious recognizes, but his conscious mind refuses to admit. It's a reaction to the revelation that he's been living in a mask, hiding a part of himself he fears to explore. What's truly astonishing is that these symbols and cues often have no explicit meaning, no words, no overt actions. They are cues embedded in the energy flow of presence, authenticity, and silence. And their effect is cumulative. Each subtle encounter layers upon another, gradually peeling away the layers of his resistance. Because in the deepest layers, what he's truly craving is connection. an honest acknowledgement of his inner world, a safe space to confront his rawest feelings. When that space is created naturally, without demand or expectation, that's when the real transformation begins. This process of awakening is as ancient as it is personal. Every culture, every spiritual tradition reminds us that the path to wholeness involves recognizing and integrating the parts of ourselves we've disowned. Jung called this individuation, rediscovering the wholeness that exists beneath our fragmented identities. And here's the pivotal truth. The person who embodies that archetype, whether consciously or instinctively, becomes a catalyst. She becomes the symbol that awakens in him a longing for integration, for authenticity, for love that is rooted in truth rather than illusion. But it's important to understand, this symbol isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about being unshaken in her authenticity, because when a woman is truly herself, embracing her shadows, her vulnerabilities, her true nature, she becomes an invitation, not a demand, for the man to look inward. In this reflection, the man begins to confront his inner conflicts. He begins to see himself through her eyes, not as he appears, but as he truly is, beneath the masks he's worn for so long. And that's terrifying and exhilarating at once. The unconscious recognizes what it needs: wholeness, authenticity, real connection, and responds with a mix of attraction and resistance. That resistance is often why men pull away or retreat, because facing the truth about oneself is uncomfortable. It exposes wounds, fears, and vulnerabilities that have been buried deep for years. But every awakening follows this pattern. First, the subtle signals, those unspoken symbols, reach him. Then, instinctively or consciously, he begins to peel back the layers of armor, to question the stories he's told himself about love, strength, and vulnerability. And in that process, something remarkable happens. What was once perceived as a threat, the vulnerability, the inner shadow, becomes a source of transformation. It's as Jung said, the confrontation with the unconscious is not a destructive act, but a necessary step toward individuation and wholeness. That awakening often begins with loss, the loss of control, of certainty, of superficial attachments. But it's in that loss that the real gain arrives: self-awareness, inner peace, and a love that is anchored in truth. So what about the symbols in your life? Have you noticed the quiet signs, the internal whispers that beckon you to look deeper? Perhaps a fleeting glance from someone, a gesture of calmness, or an aura of authenticity that seems to say, you can come home to yourself. Because in essence, our deepest connections awaken us the very qualities we need to become more complete: courage, tenderness, authenticity, openness. And the person who embodies these qualities quietly, genuinely, becomes a mirror, an invitation, reminding us that love is not about possession, but about awakening what's dormant inside. There is an undeniable truth woven into every profound connection. Real love isn't about control, possession, or perfect images. It's about awakening the parts of ourselves that we've long buried, recognizing the symbols that guide us inward, and embracing the vulnerability that leads us to wholeness. When a man is touched deeply by a presence, a silence, a subtle energy, something inside him begins to shift. Not immediately, not cleanly. Often it starts quietly, almost invisibly, like a seed submerged in dark soil. It's an invitation to turn inward, to face what has been hidden beneath layers of fear, bravado, and conditioning. And this is where transformation truly begins. Because the love that touches him at this level doesn't demand perfection. It asks only for authenticity. It asks him to listen, not just to the words of another, but to the quiet voice within his own soul. Think of it. Every moment of genuine connection is a mirror, revealing not only who we are, but who we can become. It's as if life is pointing us inward, whispering, look at these hidden parts you've been afraid of. Embrace them, make peace with them, and then love can bloom. This journey isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, an awakening that takes time, patience, and courage. It's about seeing the signals, those symbols, those moments of silence, and understanding them as signs of growth. Every encounter, every loss, every silent reflection is a piece of the puzzle, because true love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about rediscovering the love we were meant to have, and for ourselves, that love, once awakened, becomes a wellspring from which genuine connection flows. When a man recognizes that the person who touched his soul was not an ephemeral ideal, but a mirror of his own potential, everything changes. And here's the beauty. He begins to understand that love isn't a possession to be clung to or a trophy to be won. It's a sacred space, a dance of souls that transforms everyone involved. And the woman who embodies that authenticity, without effort, becomes a guide, a teacher, and a symbol of what lies hidden within. Often, that woman leaves an indelible mark not because she stayed, but because she embodied qualities he hadn't yet dared to nurture in himself. Vulnerability, confidence, authenticity, serenity. And the moment she walks away, he feels the aching emptiness. But it's no longer a void of pain. It's a space of awakening. He begins to realize that what he lost wasn't just her. It was the reflection of his own awakening, the whisper, of a part of himself he had ignored. It's in those moments of absence that the real work begins. He's left with a simple, powerful question. Who am I without my masks? And in the silence that follows, he begins to listen. To his heart, to his fears, to his unmet needs. The silence becomes a mirror, revealing truths he once refused to face. Because love, the deepest love, is not about conquering or possessing. It's about discovering and accepting. One day he'll look back and realize that fleeting connection, that symbolic encounter, was precisely what he needed, the catalyst for his inner rebirth. It was a gift wrapped in mystery, hiding the truth that love is not something outside of us. It's a mirror of what we hold within. When we understand this truth, we stop seeking to fill emptiness with fleeting attachments. Instead, we start filling ourselves with genuine self-love, compassion, and authenticity. And paradoxically, it's from this place of fullness that authentic love flows effortlessly. You see, love built on self-awareness, on integration of shadows, and on the acknowledgement of our wounds. This kind of love doesn't demand. It gives. It recognizes that vulnerability is strength, and that the greatest power lies in authentic surrender. To truly love another, the man must first love himself, his light and his darkness, his strengths and his fears. When he does, he no longer seeks validation outside himself, but rather becomes a vessel of unconditional love. And that love isn't dependent on someone else's presence. It shines from within, a beacon calling others to their own inner truth. This is the ultimate transformation, realizing that the love you seek is not outside of you. It's the love you awaken within, through the courage to face your shadows, accept your wounds, and embrace all the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. And the person who awakens that love, the one who touches your soul without effort, is simply the mirror your soul has been waiting for. She's a symbol, a guide, to help you reconnect with the truth of who you really are. When you understand that, everything changes. You no longer chase or cling. Instead, you embody love as a state of being, calm, authentic, whole. And in that wholeness, you attract not superficial connections, but deep, resonant relationships rooted in truth and mutual growth. Remember, the greatest love isn't about possession or perfection. It's about awakening what's been dormant deep within us all along. It's about seeing the divine reflection in another and recognizing that in the end, love is the journey back to ourselves. So if you've ever experienced a moment where someone touched your soul, even in silence, know that it was no coincidence. It was a sign, a whisper from the universe reminding you of your own power, your own depth, your own capacity to love and be loved. And if you've ever been that person who quietly, authentically, powerfully touched another's soul, know that your presence, even if invisible, is one of the greatest gifts life has to offer. Because in the end, love is not about what others give us. It's about what we awaken in ourselves and what we choose to reflect back to the world. If this resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Start your journey of inner love and transformation today. Remember, the deepest love begins within.